Just for that.
Welcome, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is the Roundtable Remedies. I am your host, Anthony Rosa, Mr. Remedy. As we continue the conversation around taking the challenge, tonight, our speakers will be discussing with us their decision-making abilities. Have you ever said no to an opportunity and regretted it? Today, we'll be hearing from some of the best in the film industry. Right before we do, I want to remind you, Roundtable Remedies was created to inspire, connect, and educate you from real people, their real challenges, and some of their real remedies. In speaker rotation, I want to allow them just to say hello and where they're calling from. Frank?
Yes, sir.
Just want to say thank you so much for coming on. Do you want to just give a wave to everybody that's coming in right now?
How are you? How's everybody doing? I'm giving a wave now. I think I am. There we go. There we go.
Some wave. Hey guys, if you're joining us, thank you so much. Please feel free to like, comment, and engage. And we're going to be talking about some real inside stuff on decision making. So stay tuned and stay with us. So next up on the speaker rotation, Francesca, thanks so much for joining us. Good evening.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me. Really excited to be here. Hi, everyone. Excited to chat, get really deep.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us. And, we had an amazing conversation earlier today. And, my new friend, James, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'm really excited. We can have some fun.
Awesome. And, anchoring us in for the evening, we have my pal, Len Davies. Len, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks, Anthony. Thanks for having me on, buddy. And I'm really honored to be sharing this with such august people. It's brilliant.
Yeah, look, it's a theme that we've been talking about all month, taking the challenge. And we've had shows discussing luck versus opportunity. We've had shows on taking risk. And tonight, I don't know how this all happened, guys, but we kind of went to Hollywood with this one. People tonight that are going to be talking about some of their, personal decision-making abilities, and we're going to have some stories for you. So first up, we have Frank Calo. And before you jump on, Frank, I just want to say some nice things about you. And, as an independent film producer director, whose film, The Believer, starring Ryan Gosling, Billy Zane, won the Grand Jury Prize. And, you've been in the film industry for so many years. You've worked with some, very big names. And I don't really like to name drop. But, I wanted to say thank you so much for coming on. And tonight, the question is, have you ever said no to an opportunity and regretted it? So can you take us down to, one of those moments? And of course, please feel free to jump in and put a little bit of filler onto some of the information that I saved from those that are watching. So, Frank, the show is yours.
Thank you very much for having me. And I thank you for Lynn and Jim and Francesca and Francesca and Jim and I work together quite a few times together, and we're kind of like my right-hand man there in that area. So he worked with me a couple of times, and my daughter, Francesca. But Anthony, thank you so much for having me, myself. And but yes, it's I enjoyed. I met you guys through Anthony, Tony Doty and Lynn, and it's been a journey meeting your connections with Len, and they've been connecting me with some other stuff, and it's a pleasure meeting you, Anthony, as well. And I thought our initial conversation was very, very interesting, more so than questions like, oh, what do you do, who you with, who you're hanging out with, because I'm the type of person that likes to fly under the radar. I kind of travel with myself, and people who know me know I walk more in small groups. But to answer your question, I mean, in my business, there's a lot of opportunities where fear comes into the factor, and you don't know that it's fear or whatever it is that may be happening, or for some reason you just said no when you knew you should have said yes. And in my business and on the set, sometimes I believe, and especially on film, everything's happening so fast. Once you're in production, and once when you get yourself going, and I believe in shooting a lot of coverage to make sure I have enough footage in the editing room. And then one time, and Jim was with me actually. I was doing this wonderful film that I'm promoting now called Awesome Gal, which you can see on my trailer on my website and stuff. It's a wonderful trailer, and we won so many awards just on that trailer. But that's a different story. But there was a time there when I was shooting a scene, and I was shooting a scene. I was in the middle of shooting it, and we did it all in one take. Remember, Jim, when we were in the cabin, and we did when the boy's running out with the girl. The guy's trying to rape this girl. It takes place in West Virginia, in the Appalachians, in the hollers. And we did it in one take, and it was so beautiful. Everybody said, "Oh no, let's leave it. Let's leave it. That's great, great, great. It looks good. Let's don't cut into that." And I'm going, "No, no, no." I wanted to cut a reaction shot of the guy when he grabbed her, and he was so close up. And everybody's going, "Oh, that was good." And I love the take that we shot previously as well. I'm saying, yeah, we could do this in one, but my instinct was to shoot his reaction coming in close, knowing that I was going to need it. And then I didn't. And I said, okay, yeah. And I listened to outside of my instincts. It's not blame for anybody. It's my fault. I'm not saying it's they're to blame because everybody was saying that would go as one good take. But it was my responsibility as the director. It was my responsibility to say, no, I want to get that shot. But I said, no. I said, okay, I think you guys are right. And then when I got to the editing room, because in the editing room, it's a whole different process. That's when your story starts coming together. That's when the story's going to take off and tell you where it's going to go. And if you listen close enough, you'll follow that. And we got to a point where we needed a flashback. And we had a flashback where they were close up. And guess what I was missing? I was missing one take of that guy coming in so close because she was having a flashback. I didn't have it, and this is just recent. Now I've been doing this for a long time, and those are the kind of situations that you're under pressure. You got time factors, you got daylight coming out, because we're shooting daylight, and you got nighttime coming in. You got and things are tired, and you got to just say to yourself, no, trust your instinct, especially in a work relationship like that, because that's your job. It's no one's fault. If there was any blame to me, thank God it was an independent project, but if it was a studio and there was some blame to be, I would have had to take full responsibility and say, I missed that. It's nobody's fault. It's my fault. I should have said, no, let's do that. Now, that happened to me on another film before, and I didn't do it. I went with my instinct, and in the editing room, we went, thank God I did that, because we have it in the editing room. And it's little things like that makes a big difference, and especially for yourself, for your own self-mind, for your own instincts. And the point of all this is to trust your instincts when you're working. Trust yourself, and if an opportunity. I always tell people, especially my daughter, since she was a little girl, don't miss the opportunity. We have a thing between my daughter and I that says, make the free throw. Don't be afraid to make that free throw, because she used to play junior varsity basketball. And I used to see these little girls on their team, and every time they got up the free throw, their legs were shaking, and everybody's staring at us, especially in the competition, a heavy-duty competition game. In their minds, it was a tournament for kids. And they shoot, and they miss the free throw. And one of the times that she came up to me, I said, listen, it takes courage to make that free throw. Make that free throw. And it became a metaphor in our lives, in our communication, and shortcuts. When she has a question regarding her career or her opportunity, I always say, make the free throw. And she understands what I mean by that. And it's a very good metaphor, because it takes courage to do this. First of all, it takes courage to do what we do. And especially with actors like Jim and stuff like that, they'll tell you a whole different, because they're the ones who have to get up there and play. I mean, be the actors and stuff. It takes a different courage for them than it does for me as a producer and a director. But I'm the one who has to get all and that's why I say to people, very important also, I say to people, they always say, "Oh yeah, did you follow that lead? Did you get that contact I sent you?" And most of the time, I do. I will follow that lead until I find if it's not a good lead, I'll say, "Okay, it didn't work out." It's not like, "Oh man, you sent me this bad lead." No, because you never know what's going to happen. Sometimes I follow an opportunity, a lead that someone turned me on to, and somebody else is going like, "Oh man, did you talk to that person? That person was so fat. I mean, he or she's not any good. They don't know." and that person just financed my next film or my next project or my next thing. It's like you follow that lead until it doesn't happen, because that's all we have in this business is ourselves and our instincts, and not to say no. Trust that instinct and take the opportunity. I think people get lazy. A lot of people get lazy because they're waiting for the opportunity. They're waiting for the time. Like actors, you see more in actors, or I'm waiting for that audition. I'll rehearse it, or I'll go to class when I'm not, when I get the chance, or I'll work on that monologue when I get an audition. No, you got to be ready when it happens, because part of what we do is grabbing that opportunity. And once you get there, that's your job. It's your job to get that, to fulfill that moment. And when it does, it's beautiful, because you don't be afraid to grab that opportunity. Especially, we are our own business in what we do individually. That's what we do. All I have, what Frank FMC Productions is Frank Calo's business. So I got to build that business, and I got to take those opportunities.
I just want to point something out. That when you're talking about this is something that I feel like you're telling us a story of something that you personally had to go through, of going against your instincts and then realizing, and learning from that. And as I'm watching you and I feel your energy, and that was just awesome. And I really appreciate that.
Thank you. I have like 10 hands I talk with.
No, and you know what? That's perfect.
They come from behind here too. They go like,
and for those that are watching, what are you waiting for? Don't be afraid to take your free throw. And if you don't follow your instincts and you don't take that shot, then you're only going to think what if. So thank you so much, Frank, for pointing that out. Next up we have Francesca coming on, and as a bi-coastal actor and voice actress who spent her childhood on film and television sets with her parents, she began her studies at the age of 7 and has since enthusiastically followed her passion of acting. That's super awesome. And when we were talking the other day, and I was talking about my kids, and Pokemon came up, and yeah, I was involved in that, and we were just kind of like going into it. So conversation tonight, have you ever said no to something and regretted it? Please, how does this resonate with you?
Yeah, thank you so much again for having me. I'm really excited to be here. Also, I just wanted to say, like, jumping off what my dad said, Frank said, in terms of following your instincts, it also goes the other way of following your instincts when something feels bad and you get like a bad feeling from something. There was one time where someone reached out to me to go to an audition, and it was somewhere remote and in like Brooklyn and far away, and they wanted to meet at night and at their house, and I had a bad feeling about it. And he said, follow the instincts. And so I didn't go to that audition, because who knows what would have happened. So it also can go both ways, and not to be afraid of that too. But in terms of things that I said no to and something I regretted, really the big story for me was when I was, I think, 8. We had my parents threw me a birthday party, and they took us all to see a magician named Joseph Gabriel on Broadway. And it was like a huge event, and it was really cool because he was a big magician. And we were right in the front 2 rows, and he did his tricks, and he came down the stairs, and he said, I need a volunteer. Does anyone want to help me? And like everybody's hands went up, and he walked down the stairs, and he went right to me because it was my birthday. And he like leaned down, and he offered his hand, and he said, do you want to come up and help me with this next trick? And I said no, which was like the most foolish thing. And I was like so young, because everybody wants to like go up and help a magician, especially as a kid. It's magic. It's so cool. I said no, and he said, are you sure? And I was like, I like pretended to think about it, and then I was like, no, I'm okay. And he was like, okay. And he moved on and asked somebody else. And then immediately I turned to my friend who was sitting next to me, and I was like, oh, the seats are comfortable. I just didn't want to leave my seat. It was too comfortable. And that they did this like amazing trick, and I have regretted it ever since because it was such a horrible missed opportunity, and of just like daring to fail gloriously, which is a motto rather that I learned in a theater school. Dare to fail gloriously, meaning just take the leap and don't be afraid to fail, and don't be afraid to do it with panache, with gloriously. So in terms of like regrets, that was also a huge learning opportunity for me, because it's something like make the free throw. It's another metaphor that we always use in our family when I'm concerned about if I'm going to miss an opportunity or something like that. I'll always be like, is this a magician moment? Am I going to really regret this in the future? And then my parents or whoever I'm talking to will be like, no, it's fine. Or like, yeah, it is a magician moment. You better take that leap. So, and it always works. It's always like a good jumping point to figure out where I am. And because my biggest fear, I think, is whenever in the future or whatever, I don't want to look back ever and think, what if I didn't do this? Or what if I just missed this opportunity? Or why didn't I take that shot and go for this audition and then regret it later? I never want to regret where I am in terms of my career and also just in life. So I always think of those moments as learning opportunities and ways to grow and just move forward from there.
Wow, that's awesome. And so, dare to fail gloriously.
Yeah.
I think that as some of those look at failure as a huge setback, I think what we're talking about here is our setbacks as our comebacks. And that's a common theme that we've been talking about on the round table, as we're discussing take the challenge. And with those that are watching right now, I want you to take the challenge. Have you said no to something and regretted it? Comment right now. We want to hear what you have to say. And so thank you, Francesca. Before I bring on the next speaker, though, I do want to, learn a little bit more about, from that moment on, how did that prepare you for the next moment where you followed your instincts and it worked out well? Can you share something with us?
Well, I think because acting, obviously, in all forms in the entertainment industry, you're obviously greeted with many different opportunities that you can grasp or not. And even things as simple as like, should I reach out to this person? Should I take that leap and like reach out to this agent? Should I reach out to this contact? I think fear is what really stops people from moving forward.
Yeah.
And that can be a real detriment to your creativity and your moving forward. And so that moment with the magician, it was all because of fear. Like I was afraid to go on stage and the seats weren't even that comfortable. It was just because I was afraid to go up and be in front of these millions of people. So I think for me, just moving forward, just thinking about that, and again, like if I'm going to regret I don't want in the future to think I didn't take those opportunities because I was afraid to do it. And so having that in the back of the mind as well, constantly throughout any connection I make in the industry or whoever I talk to, I think helps me navigate those fears.
Can I say something, Anthony?
Of course, Frank, jump in.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think it's something very important that, since we're talking about this, is that something that Francesca said in the very first thing about a time when she was wanted to respond to an audition. And the audition was kind of negative. It was like, Brooklyn, by my house, late at night, by yourself, come to yourself, come here. And there's a big difference that I'm listening to now and the way she told the story, because I'm the person that she came to for that. And there's an opportunity, and then there's instinct. I think her fear was that she was going to miss the opportunity, but her instinct was saying, don't go there, don't do this. And she had trouble with that for a while, for a couple of days, saying I should go to this guy because I don't want to miss the opportunity. But read what was said was that, oh, come here by yourself. I'm all, be your I'm gonna put you in the lead movie. Now she was younger too. Younger, not like she is more. She was less experienced than she is now. And then she came to me. We're walking down the street, and she goes, and she stopped. She goes, I feel like I'm missing. Like she said, I'm missing an opportunity. I'm missing the free throw. And I said, what are you talking about? And she showed me the text, and I said, wait a minute, this is not what you think it is. I said, you know what? Let's test this. I said, write back to him right now and say, I would love to audition for you. I would love, but I have my agent. He is coming with me, and we're going to meet at a Starbucks close to you. The next text from him was, oh, sorry, we already cast it. So, but her instinct was to say no, but her fear for missing an opportunity, because she was young and naive, was saying, I got to do this. And that's a very fine line. I think it's very important for what we're talking about. If you understand if I'm communicating if I'm communicating
you want to say no, but then it's like, I don't want to lose.
Let's don't get confused with instinct and not missing opportunities, because her instinct was actually to say no. She knew it was wrong to go there. Her instinct would say, no, I'm not going to go there. But her fear for I'm going to miss out because of her naivete or lack of an experience got her into that trouble. Would have gotten her into that trouble possibly. Right. So, I mean, it's a very important note, I thought. And so her instinct was to say no. But she didn't, again, on topic, she didn't follow her real instinct, was to say no. She was smart enough to say it, but she was afraid she's going to miss an opportunity. Very fine line. I just wanted to bring that up since we're talking about it.
I want to bring up, one of our guests brought up, I have been blessed to listen to my intuition. You can feel when the moment is not your moment. I always pray to get the green light from God. And if I miss the opportunity, God will open a comfortable door again. And I think that hit it on the head when you came in to explain that, Frank, of just, sometimes you want to say no on instinct, but you're forced to say yes. And sometimes how to filter that no and yes.
Exactly right. And that's where your stuff comes in. That's where and now I was experienced. I had all these experiences. Now, if I was her colleague and I was sort of the same age of her, I might say, yes, just go, forget about it. But I had that experience, and I know what casting is, and I know how people misuse that in a bad way. And I caught it, and we tested it by saying, my agent's going to be there, and he right away said, oh, sorry, it's cast. All of a sudden it's cast. Yeah. But it's a very important question about that too. So I just want to bring that on, and I like that last question. Yes, God is always in everywhere, everything we do. So that's a very good question.
Let's keep them relevant in this show too. Thank you so much for bringing that in, and thank you so much for that ad. And Fran, thank you so much for sharing that. I hope that it was inspiring. It inspired me. I hope it connected with you. Frank brought in some valid points about filtering a no versus yes, and, following your instincts. And of course, speaking to those accountability partners or those mentors or a parent or guardian, and just kind of say, look, this is how I'm feeling. What do you think? Are my instincts, correct? Or so bring those in, I encourage you. And comment right now. As we transition, I want to say thank you so much, James, for coming on, as a off-Broadway actor, and you are super excited, on the conversation, you were super busy in these last few years in some movies, very excited of Bare Knuckle Brawler alongside Danny Trejo. And so tonight, we're talking about, have you ever said no to an opportunity and regretted it? And so we hear a common theme of listening to your instincts. And so I would love to hear, was there ever, a time in your line of work that you felt that kind of pressure to say yes or said no? And what did you learn if you regretted it?
The example that I'll use is I was actually in the extra, in the extra. I was an extra in The Natural. With Robert Redford, and I was a paid extra, and they actually reached out to me.
I think I am. Yeah.
If I could be part of the locker room scene, a much smaller scene, and would I be, available to do that? And it just so happened I was doing a play at the same time, and that was dress rehearsal night. And as much as I wanted to bail on the dress rehearsal and not go ahead and do my commitment, and be part of this bigger movie and having a real opportunity, and it was my first movie and I really wanted to do it, I just knew that wasn't the right choice, that I had to commit to my word, because there could have been the regret. Yeah, I would have been in a scene in the natural, but then I'm not a person of my word, and I'm not a person that really commits to. I was cast in a show and I committed to that, and then I would have regretted not sticking with my word and not fulfilling my obligation. And so that was one of those things that I always think about is, the flash for the moment is not more important than your word, your commitment, and who you are as a person. And so I like to think of, myself as a man of my word. And if I commit to something, even if something seemingly seems better, I got to back it up, and I gotta, live with that. So I'm going to stay with my commitment and try to be that person. So, it was interesting, and I was glad I still was a part of it. And yet, I still did the play. So
Now, that I don't think a lot of people would have done that. Imagine, put yourself in the shoes, and how old were you at that time?
I was 17.
Young teenager, up and coming, potential first movie opportunity, and you give commitment to something that may not have been of the same substance, and you may feel that the value would have catapulted you to a completely different direction, but you stuck to your word. And I think that kind of speaks volumes. And the word regret is kind of something like, I wish I did that. But still, I think that if you were to make that decision now, you would probably stay with your word and stick to your commitment.
Right.
So as you progressed in your career and you've worked with Frank and so many others, how did that prepare you to say yes, or maybe not say no, or say no to the next opportunity?
I think that always plays a part into it. Whenever you make a commitment on something, your reputation is really the most important thing you have. Your talent is great, your drive is great, but if people don't trust you and they can't count on you, they're never going to call you. I love what Frank was saying about being open to opportunity, and the old saying is luck is when opportunity and preparation meet. So, you're so lucky, but at the same time, you got to be prepared, and you have to be open to opportunities to do stuff. And in the large sense, you have to be a person of your word, that you're going to commit and they can count on you. That all matters. Your reputation, especially when working with people, will always continue to matter.
I love that you added that in. Luck is when opportunity and preparation meet. I think that sometimes, very often, I don't think people take their free throw. And I think as much as they want to take that free throw, they allow fear to hold them back. And you can create your opportunities and you can attract your luck, but if you don't take that free throw, it's kind of like having the winning lottery ticket in your hand and not checking the numbers and throwing it away.
Or ripping it up. Knowing you had the ticket, but then you rip it up.
Jim, thank you so much for that ad. Loyalty and integrity means a lot to me. And on the round table, we applaud you and thank you so much for that addition.
Thank you.
Anchoring us in, we have my friend, my compadre, my buddy boy, Len Davies. You've been super busy during this pandemic. You created COVID protocols. You're doing some amazing things with the Anastasi group. You're working with Restart America with the new cabinet. and you're doing some amazing things in the low income area, focusing in the affordable housing, and you're still managing to be an award-winning movie producer. So kudos to you. I just had to throw that in there, of course.
Thank you, Anthony.
But have you, Len, ever said no to an opportunity and regretted it?
Yeah, mine's going to go in a slightly different direction because generally, like Frank and all that, my instinct is pretty spot on. It's like even the whole thing about coming to LA. You know, I came over on what they call a person of extraordinary ability visa, the O1. So I had to prove my background as a producer, as a director, and I bolted acting on the back end of it, thinking that maybe I could get a chance to finally do it. If I had only had acting at that visa, I would have been back home in the UK a long time ago because I've earned nothing from that. But the production side of it is what's actually got me in. But my no is actually when I know I actually stayed on a project and regretted it, right? Because I'm one of those people. I will, make my own future. I'll make my own decisions, and I will push through, like I've done coming to LA. But in 1994, I moved over to Latvia. I'd produced an album for the #1 band over in Latvia, and I was invited over there for the launch. And they were only 3 years outside of getting their independence from the Soviet Union. And I realized there was a potential for some business to be done over there in the recording field and in electronics and whatever. So I went over to Latvia. And in December of 94, a producer who shall remain nameless from Hollywood came over, attracted by the possibility of filming in Latvia very cheaply, because at that time, everything was really cheap. It was like 50s or 60s USA in costs. So he set up, we were going to do the movie and everything, and being the other resident Westerner, I sort of joined on board as an associate producer. And he basically said to me, before he came back to LA to cast the lead and do the other bits, he said, "No, I'm going to give you an out if you want it. You're more than welcome to not do this project." And I said, "No, I'm going to be fine. Let's do it. Let's make a movie together and whatever." That was the biggest mistake of my life, literally. when he came back, literally after Christmas, he came back in and we started prepping for this movie. And we were working at the Kino Film Studio. They had the Kino Studio in Riga. They had the most phenomenal film studio there. They had some great carpenters. I mean, one of the projects they had done there was like a Viking movie, which I ended up being a Viking in, a little side part. but yeah, very, very, very easy. I had to learn a little side note. I had to learn a Danish line in that so they could lip sync it afterwards. But anyway, but the point is, these carpenters in this film set, they had built a Viking village inside the larger stage, including a longboat. They actually built an actual longboat. That was phenomenal. But basically, where I'm going with that is, I said to him, this movie he was doing, it was a very Disney-esque thing, and it needed a back alley, which is quite magical, in a snowy time. So I said to him, "So why don't you just take a stage, get the guys to build it, and then we're all good." But no, he insisted on filming outside at night in minus 21 degrees. Minus 21, and it was absolutely nuts.
Were you guys shooting film?
Not only did we have people getting chilled right through to the bone, not only did we have all sorts of other issues, but on one of the scenes, which involved a little dance scene, we had sorry, my computer started playing music for some reason. We had that happened. Yeah, we had this situation where there was supposed to be a playback going on, and there was a little sing-along. So we had the playback working, and the sing-along was fine, and the snow was just starting to melt at that point. And when we were done, I went to unplug the lighting, and I didn't realize that the power had been sitting inside a pool of water. Oh. So next thing I know, I'm picking myself up from the other side of the yard after a huge electrical shock.
Oh my God!
Which that plagued me for months afterwards. And let's just say that while I was off, they finished the movie. I ended up spending weeks in a studio doing the post on it because all the audio was out, and we had to do so much ADR with it, and there was no sound effect, and the music that he scored was absolute crap. And eventually he disappeared back to LA, owing me $1,000, and I never even heard from him again. Can't even find him anywhere. His father has got an IMDb thing, but I'm not going to put that on his shoulders. But so literally that no would have saved me an electric shock and probably a bit of sanity, because that was 95 with that was one of the worst years I've ever gone through.
So from that electric shot, waist up, we're really seeing just waist up, right?
That's it. Totally. But yeah, so it's like sometimes saying no and regretting it, you might be walking into a situation which you just don't know what's coming. And just by saying no might save you a lot of grief. So sometimes your instinct is the main thing. And my instinct there was purely and simply, it's a Hollywood producer, and I'd been doing all of my production in the UK back at that time. We're talking 27 years ago now. So I'd done all my production and said, oh, maybe this will open the door for me in Hollywood. So I let that little part of logic interfere with my instinct, which was saying, I'm not so sure this is a good deal, but there you go. Instinct sometimes wins out, but that time, I should have listened.
So, this is a time where, have you ever said yes when you should have said no?
That was definitely.
Yeah, I mean that's right. That was definitely one time when I should have said, take a hike, dude.
Maybe saying no wouldn't have regretted it this time, but it's something that will carry you over. So saying yes as a yes man and not thinking it through can also be as equally as bad as saying no and regretting it. So follow your instincts and don't feel pressured into doing things that you really don't want to do, and always seek out and reach out for those that have the best interest in you, because they'll protect you in a way. So thank you so much for that ad, Len. That was really
You're welcome.
that was definitely consider a different way. Perspective is reality, I always say, right?
That's it.
So, as we're rounding third base, we're going into the final thoughts part of the show. And so I want to, in speaker rotation, just allow you guys to kind of get off your chest something that, resonated you throughout this whole evening. And so in your final thoughts, Frank, what would you say your final thoughts are to inspire, connect, and educate someone that's watching tonight?
Oh, I mean, love what you're doing. Love what you're doing, because if you're doing something that you don't love, then it's going to hurt you, especially in a business like ours. Love what you're doing. Learn, prep, to be humble, to learn. I mean, that's, I think, one of my saving graces, because I'm a director and Len's a producer as well. We all have, I mean, I'm sure we all have those director egos and the producers, but I learned to listen. And I learned to be humble, and I learned to listen to someone else's idea. And remember, what we do, people mistake directing or producing like you're top, you're the boss. No, you're not. It's a collaboration. You're collaborating with the actor. You're collaborating with the production designer. You're collaborating with the director of photography, with a PA, production assistant who's running around getting everything for you. It's a team effort. It's not just one person. No one in our business is indispensable. You could be replaced. Trust yourself, trust your work, but learn your work. Be humble. Be very, very humble and listen. I'm not saying let that overpower you, but then use that and filter it and use what's good for you and let it go. What doesn't, just let it out. Let it out the window. There's no one's going to jail for anything that we talked about tonight. No one's going to jail because we missed that opportunity or we missed that no, but we go to jail ourselves. So free yourself of that. Don't let yourself get in that jail. And be humble and remember, whatever we do, it's a collaboration. It's a team effort. Everybody's, and Jim knows this. I swear by that. And there's times when I say, this is what I think, And then one time Jim was reading a script and he said this. And I went, fuck me, man. Okay, yeah, I got that. I mean, why didn't you see that? I mean, why didn't I see that? But if I didn't listen to it and I used it, and then when someone else read it, who I was important to read, I wanted to read, said, "Oh, that was a great moment," and that was a contribution from someone else, from Jim or anybody else. But I used it because it was his instinct in critiquing my work. But so it's a collaboration, is what I say. It's a team effort, and be humble enough to learn that.
Thank you so much for that ad, Frank. Thank you again for joining us and sharing some of those stories with us. So what would be your final thoughts tonight?
Yeah, I think for me, it's just the power of being able to say no and accept that it's okay to say no. For me, I'm still opening doors in the industry. I'm still learning. I'm still making my way through. And especially as an actor and in the industry, I feel like actors always feel this need to say yes. Like I have to take this job. I have to show you who I am. I have to just do it and show you that I'm reliable, and I will take any job just so that I can get my resume taken care of and grow that and grow the opportunities that way. But I think throughout this also just learning the power of no, and I think the word no is one of the most powerful words you can say, especially in a creative industry. If you feel like you are getting gypped, or the rate is not right, or you just don't feel comfortable, it's okay to say no. And you're like Frank, my dad said, you're not going to get reprimanded for it. You may lose that opportunity, but that's also okay. And also know that because we own our own business in the creative field, that you have to look after yourself and take care of yourself first, and take care of your business first. And sometimes that means saying no to opportunities that may come your way as well. It's something that I'm still learning, finding the strength to actually say no to potential opportunities and directors or agents and stuff like that. So I think knowing that and understanding that it's okay to do that is a big part of just going forward and knowing what you can do and grow from it.
I love when you said it's okay to say no, put yourself first, and the power of no.
Yeah.
That
Well,
was awesome.
someone once told me too that especially in the creative field, you're a business owner, you're not a product. So if you think of
Right.
it as a business owner versus you as a product, you set your own hours. You have to look after your business. You have to look after yourself and what's good for your business, not just the item that is your services. And that really opened my mind too, because as actors, we just want to get our services out there and into the world, but you have to look after yourself. And yeah, the power of no is a very powerful word to say to someone.
Yes. Thank you. Jim, thank you again for coming on and
Thank
sharing.
you.
Thank you, Franny. Jim, as we transition, I just want to say thank you again for coming on. And what will be your final thoughts?
Thank you very much for having me. Actually, it ties both in with what Frank is saying and Francesca. Is being an actor, growing up being an actor, it's all hustle. So much of it, there's talent and then there's hustle. You have to, really create your own world in a lot of ways, and to know your own worth, but to also know that you have somebody to collaborate that with that knows your worth, even if sometimes you don't. I'm probably as guilty as anybody of somebody offering something and saying, my mind is already racing to figure out how I can do it, how I can make that work, even if it's not in my best interest. And that's where you need to be able to trust somebody that says, listen, I can make this happen. Should I? And to trust them and open yourself up. And that's really being vulnerable, because I get my armor on when I'm ready to convince, hey, I can do this. Let's make this happen. And to have somebody look at you and say, this really isn't in your best interest. You're worth more than they're offering. You're better than what they're looking at you as. And this is not good for you. And to be able to receive that, that's everything. To have somebody that you can trust enough to say no and be open about that, and know that they care enough about you and your best interest to say maybe you shouldn't. So it's the power of no with somebody that can actually say it, that you'll hear it, I think is so important in this, whether it be a friend, a loved one, an agent, whatever. That's key, because I Don Quixote everything. I'm full storm at the windmill, whether it's right or wrong, and you need someone to say, hey, wait a minute, it might not be the best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I love that, you pointed out, know your worth, but, always be humble and have those people that could put you in check when you need to. So, a part of that comes with a part of that collaboration. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And as we're transitioning, Len, we're coming to a part of the final thoughts tonight. So thank you so much for your ads. What would you say are your final thoughts for this evening?
Well, the first thing, I mean, what Frank said, 100%, totally the same. Whenever I'm directing a set, I want a family feel on set. And if anybody disrupts that, even if it's the lead, I'll recast them, I'll kill them off, whatever the case may be.
Right.
Because you cannot get a good production if there's not a good atmosphere, literally. So, but the main thing for me is I would advise anybody to literally go with the flow. You've got it written down there, but that's exactly what it is. Last year, if nothing else, forced us all into a situation when Hollywood shut down. What were we going to do? Anthony, you know my story. I made a pivot completely and utterly through Tony. I ended up ghostwriting a book for our dear old friend Dr. Abuse on the pandemic, and that taught me all that I needed to know about COVID. And from there, I started making my time creating protocols and sort of working diligently to try and get people back to work. And that's why Anthony, Tony, Adam, and myself formed Anastasia Group, which is designed to try and reopen the world safely. So I totally, until Hollywood started getting back in and I managed to get some other editing and bits and pieces and whatever, we were all, most of last year, a total pivot. So just literally go with the flow, because as last year proved, we just never know what's coming around the corner. So be flexible. Like Bruce Lee said, be like water. Because that's the whole thing. Water's the softest thing in the world, but it can adapt to any form.
Well, is that part of it, guys?
I love this song.
The quote of the show: life opens up opportunities to you, and you either take them or you stay afraid of taking them. This is by Jim Carrey. Thank you, everybody. This is Anthony Rosa, Mr. Remedy, and we brought to you another awesome show on the Roundtable Remedies. Go in grace, go in peace. Speakers, stay with me. Thank you all, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good song.